Urbanization is the increase in the number of people living in urban areas which normally result in the physical growth of the urban areas. China is an ancient urban civilization that is now trying to prove itself on the world stage. While studying China's urbanization, you must consider both the traditional historical factors and the unique characteristics of our own era. Once it seemed imperative to retain some traditional Chinese architectural features even in modern buildings. Most political leaders believed that because Beijing is the capital, it should look Chinese. After China lost the bid in 1993 for the 2000 Olympic Games, they chose to stress the city's international and modern side.
Athens was model of what a city should be for the ancients. Our text says about the image of the city and how it doesn't grow in an organic way. Different influences and different proportions can change the city. In this case of study, we will analyze the Olympics' effect to the city.
The first modern Olympic Games happened in Athens in 1896, and Greek officials and the public were enthusiastic about the experience of hosting an Olympic game there. This feeling was shared by many of the athletes, who even demanded that Athens would be the permanent Olympic host city. However, the International Olympic Committee decided that the Games should be rotated to various host cities around the world. The 28th Olympic Games happened in Athens in 2000.
The Olympics affected the city in many different ways. The most obvious of these are the new stadiums and infrastructure. To name a few, they built 22 new stadiums, 12 renovated facilities, 2 ring roads, 142 miles of infrastructure and 8 subways. The land for these new structures had to come from somewhere. 200 factories were relocated from within the city to the outskirts or satellite towns. This was also an attempt to improve the air quality in Beijing, which is still a major health concern. The Chinese government took the Olympics as an opportunity to rebrand itself as a modern city, a chance to step away from the old traditional-based architecture and try more contemporary designs such as the bird nest. During the construction, 1.5 million people were displaced. This, in conjunction with the increased housing prices, has led to the poor being forced out of the city to be replaced with a new middle class.
Modernized, it creates global exposure by involving the rest of the world in trying to act as a responsible member of the world community. When it becomes modernized, it replicates history, which then turns into a tourist attraction. By replicating history, we are creating new history, which brings national pride and good prestige to the city and its inhabitants. And by putting aside the history, there is a loss of heritage. Future success of the city depends on its past events put aside to make space for current events, which then becomes the history of the city. The inhabitants have a new common interest, which becomes national unity. Change occurs when history is destroyed. Traditional social bonds are broken, crimes committed, poverty, population decrease. The city is becoming westernized when bringing tourists or international people into the city. The focus is taken away from the growth of the city and its people, which is time and energy and money consuming on something that's not very beneficial to the people. Transport and communication is shrinking national space, which means that a lot of money was used for the Olympics. Because tax money is used on the Olympics, there is an inflation, so people can't afford to live. There's competition in choosing the host country for the Olympics because China realized that it's lagging behind in growth compared to Europe and North America.
Some improvements made in Athens changed the landscape of the city, and some of them made the citizens' lives better, like the improvement of the transport system. But also the complex had different influence. After the event, the complex was abandoned and the city has no budget to maintain it. Greece became the first European country to be placed under fiscal monitoring by the European Commission in 2005. And due to Olympics, the debt increased and was the influence factor for the Greek crisis. In the slides, there is images of how were some structures of the time of the Olympics and how they are recently. About the impacts in the city, the author believes that the city does not grow in an organic way. This way, the Olympics are an example of how the city can be changed to cultural or political desires. A lot of effort was made to construct the whole infrastructure to be used for the event in this short period of time, and had no plan of how it will be used by the population in the future. Another point was the attempt to change the image of Athens to the world, that is so attached to the ancient city.
For most people in Greece, it would be better if the Olympics never happened. They defend that the money spent in it could have better use. But for the Hellenic Olympic Committee president, the Olympics did serve to upgrade a big portion of the infrastructure of the city and the country, helping the future tourism in Greece. However, he didn't deny that the complex installations are white elephants in Athens.
Comparing the two studies of cases between Athens and Beijing, we find some common factors. Both cities want to bring a new impression. The transport and roads were renewed, and housing prices increased, and the communications was improved. Also, we can find differences between two. Some installations in Beijing are being reused to different functions. In the meantime, Athens have the Olympic complex abandoned. The architectural constructions made for the Olympics influenced the development of new designs and buildings in Beijing. It did not happen in Athens. Beijing GDP had increased after the Olympics and then normalized. On the other hand, Athens' GDP decreased.
Politically, Greece is very different from China. Greece is considered the birthplace of democracy, whereas China is a single-party state run by the Communist Party and has been since 1949. Greece is considered to be a developed country with an advanced high-income economy and a high standard of living, even though the country is currently facing economic problems. China is one of the fastest-growing economies and is the world's second-largest economy, both by GDP, gross domestic product, and PPP, purchasing power parity. China is a socialist state who rule in a Marxist style under the control of a vanguard party, whereas Greece is currently in a coalition run by a central-right party who are focused on conservation.
Positive and negative effects in people's lives in both cases. The positive ones in Beijing were the creation of new sports facilities and a campaign to reduce the air pollution. In Athens, the bigger improvements occurred in the transport system. The negative aspects in both cases were that the money could be better spent. In Beijing, 6% of the achievements made about the pollution disappeared. In Greece, the economy suffered due to this event because the country was not able to afford it, and it also, like we already said, the Olympic complex is now abandoned. Reichwald says that each city has the image that it deserves, but we disagree with that. The inhabitants are able to change the city future, but it takes a long period of time to these changes to appear. So usually, other powerful factors like the economics, the government, and even natural disaster causes a more impacting changes. For the future of the city, should exist some actions to revitalize the complex and create a new use for the spaces, making worth the billions spent in the construction. This way, the complex should be another tourist point for the city and be different image that Athens wanted to show.
I think that the future of both cities can be improved on social and economical basis if the existing facilities could be reused, repurposed in ways that could help the city's main problem areas. In Beijing, the vast green park area can be urbanized into living leisure district for mixed income groups to increase the free space around the rest of the city, which is highly overcrowded, rather than just preserving the park as a monumental dream. The first positive aspect of the Olympics was that it provided new facilities and investments in infrastructure, increasing jobs in the city, providing a more efficient movement around the city. This also encouraged people to move into the city, therefore increasing urbanization. This urbanization, although intertwined with the globalization process, is a developing process leading to a specifically Chinese form of modernity. This then leads to city branding, making Beijing recognized worldwide on center stage. Data shows of the last 6 host countries that spending money on the Olympic Games is a weak economic solution. The increase in house pricing meant that people could not afford to live in urban areas and had to migrate back into satellite new towns and suburbs, in which the government saw as a modernization policy, although the people did not agree. The relocation of the people in the Olympic Park area led to the elderly feeling displaced in their own city and heritage. The deconstruction of the city for the space to rebuild led to vast amounts of the city heritage to be demolished in an attempt to modernize Beijing. Another negative point is the increase in pollution. Although the Olympic development was built in an attempt to reduce pollution, a few months later this has stopped working and led to a higher increase in pollution and health risks.